your accomplishments. And today we're looking at how to find the approach to amplifying your personal brand and your value and your achievements in a way that fits your style, but is also effective and is rewarded and recognized within your organization. A quick call out, as always, to our corporate partners. Thank you so much for flexing and responding with us to make sure that your employees are able to join, even though they might not be coming into an office location and joining with colleagues today. We really recognize you. We're incredibly grateful for you for being our partners in bringing these programs to people wherever they're at. And a very, very warm welcome back to our friends at Lind, Thermo Fisher Scientific, and Western Digital, who are joining us again, many of you for multiple years now. So with that, something just went wrong with my screen. I'm going to attempt to get it back here. Look at this. But you know what? I'm up to the bio slide, so I kind of know what's on it. Here we go. So this is me. I'm your host and facilitator for the webinar series. My name is Jo Miller. I'm CEO with Be Leaderly, and I'm also the author of Woman of Influence, a book about how to reinvent yourself, to reimagine your brand as a woman of influence and become the leader, that powerhouse leader that you were always meant to be. And look, as you can see in the final line in my bio, the book is tantalizingly close to selling 8,000 copies. Thanks everyone who's bought a copy for yourself or friends or for people in your organization. And look, if you haven't got your copy yet, now is your chance. I'd be incredibly grateful if you were the one to buy it and push it over the edge to 8,000. So look, again, if you've not already done so, I would love if you would open up whatever browser you have handy, go ahead and click through to polev.com/leaderly, polev.com/leaderly, and take our poll. Let us know where you're joining from today and which of the following pictures best represents your current strange new reality. And look, I'm just going to load up the answers now because this is kind of interesting. I had so much fun coming up with all the different pictures, but you know, this is a very unscientific analysis here, but it kind of looks like we're all over the map. Some of you are kind of joining from your very cramped closet office home space. Some of you are doubling up as work from home teacher as well as work from home employee. Some of you are bravely going out into the world, and we really thank you for the difference that you're making. We hope you're staying safe with your mask and your PPE. And then I clicked on the final one, as did I think Angie here as well. We're kind of surrounded by multiple pets and furry friends. So again, look, we're so thrilled to have you join us. I'm going to go ahead and just show one more time as that refreshes, and then get back to the content, which is I know what you came here to see today. So look, back to our topic of the day. We're talking about how to amplify your accomplishments. And I want to harken back to some of the content that we shared back in our most recent session back in February, before our world changed so dramatically, because in this strange new world we find ourselves, there has never been an important moment in time to ask, who am I as a leader really? So I encourage you to reflect back on some of the topics and content that we covered in our February session, because we were talking about understanding your leadership strengths, up-leveling those into a leadership brand, redesigning your personal brand to become a leadership brand. And look, one of the things I want to say is that at this moment in time, the world needs your leadership now, so much more so than ever before. And your coworkers and your customers and your community and organization and family need from you has changed. And, you know, get this, it's going to continue to keep changing. And so in our lifetimes, there's never been a more important time for us as leaders to flex and adapt and rise up to meet crises and meet this change head on. And so this is not the time for one size fits all leadership. And so I'd like to bring us back to the leadership niche diagram that I shared with you back in February, because chances are what your leadership niche was when you analyzed it back then 2 months ago is possibly not the niche that's going to carry you forward for the next 6 to 12 months or even the next 6 to 12 weeks. And so back in February, we talked about understanding your leadership strengths and noticing where those align with your passions, the things you just love to do, what lights you up, what fires you up, what has you be inspired to come to work every day. And yet, if you think about it, those passions may have changed. So whereas previous to now, your passions might have always been about what lights you up and inspires you and makes your heart sing. Right now, your passions might be more to do with what do you care deeply about, and what's incredibly important and meaningful to you right now. What fires you up by making you feel fiercely angry or concerned about our world. So notice that although your strengths and talents may have stayed relatively stable, your passions may have changed. And I would go so far as to say that what your organization and industry and customer base need from you and want and value right now has absolutely shifted and changed, because there's never been a more important time to look at the landscape around you and to think about what's changed, what's shifted, what's been disrupted, and how can you shift your value proposition to meet this moment. And so what is it that you could do to solve an important problem or to fill a leadership gap? So again, I just wanted to provide that quick recap on our February session in case your leadership niche has shifted and changed. Have your passions shifted to something that you care deeply about, that's super important and meaningful to you right now? Has the value proposition that you have to offer to the world at large shifted as well? And are there new leadership gaps for you to fill? So think about whether that leadership niche may have shifted or evolved. And I also wanted to just cull from the many, many leadership brand examples that I came across when I was creating my book, having curated through a list of around about 400 different leadership brands from leaders at all levels and positions in their career. And so I went back over that list and pulled out some that I think are especially appropriate to this moment right now. And so I also want you to think about where that leadership niche may have changed. How has your leadership brand statement shifted since February? And remember, your leadership brand statement is that tiny but mighty declaration of who you are and what you stand for. And the nature of that value proposition might have shifted quite dramatically even within the last month or so. So perhaps you're a transformation strategist, or a complexity calmer, or talent whisperer. Or maybe you're someone who is the developer of the next generation of leaders. I love this next one, team healer, or passionate culture catalyst, or the cross-team bridge builder. Or perhaps you're a leader of teams that accomplish big dreams. One of the people that I interviewed said she was the transformer of data into innovation. Another called herself the customer trust advocate. And I also know a chief relationship officer and a social justice executive. And so I pulled these examples just to give you a fresh way of thinking about how you can show up with a leadership brand statement that meets this moment head on and shows what you have to offer as a leader in a COVID-19 world. Maybe you'll draw some inspiration from some of these. I also have some favorite ones that I have to mention, and two of these you'll find in the book: the Bomb Diggity Change Ranger, and there was also the Badass BS Eliminator. And then my absolute favorite one I think of all time. I smile and have a little giggle every time I see this one. But it was someone who participated in our most recent webinar said that their leadership brand was keeps the puppies in the box. Here's a high five to you, sir or madam, whoever you are. I hope you're still keeping the puppies in the box, even during a really challenging time. So look, back in February, we talked about how to identify your leadership strengths, formulate your leadership niche where your strengths meet something that is meaningful, that is important to you, that you care deeply about and are passionate about, but also has you fulfill a really important gap, fill a leadership gap and provide incredible value. That's your leadership niche. Then we talked about how to scale up your brand and come up with a leadership brand statement that would have others sit up, pay attention, and see the leader in you. But here's the problem we'll address during today's session. Our topic today is about how to take that leadership brand and advocate it into reality, because you have a unique package of leadership strengths and value to offer. But the unfortunate truth of our corporate workplaces is it's not enough to be it if no one can see it. I mean, your company can't appreciate how to leverage you as a resource if your co-workers, superiors, your organization as a whole don't know what your unique talents are. So don't deny that of them. Make your value visible. And yet the problem for most of us is that doing just that, making our value and brand and accomplishments visible, has always been a challenge, and it's inordinately more so, inordinately more challenging during the COVID-19 pandemic, with so many of us either working from home or working remotely from the teams that we're a part of. So here's why it's so important. One of the studies that I dug up when I was researching for my book is one in which 240 Silicon Valley senior leaders, women, were asked what got them promoted to the level that they're at. And get this, the number one factor that got them promoted into their current role and level was visibility. The number one factor. All right, so visibility was the most important factor in their advancing to where they are today. Not only that, women who were the most proactive in making their achievements known, it attracted some fairly enticing career benefits. They advanced further, they had greater career satisfaction, and were more likely to attract the advocacy of those influential sponsors who can really give us a leg up and kick down doors, open doors for us in our careers. They also said that making achievements known was the only career advancement strategy that was linked to pay increases. Right, so it's never been more important to make your value visible. And as one of the women that I interviewed for my book, Nora Denzel, has said, it's not what you know, and it's not who you know, it's who knows what you know. Do you like that? So it's not just what you know, and it's not who you know, it's who knows what you know. So think about that. Who knows what you know? Who knows about what you care deeply about? Who knows about the unique talents and strengths that you bring to the table? Are people aware of the value that you can deliver, and the problems that you were uniquely built to solve? Do people know about the leadership gaps that you're stepping up to fill? All right, so who knows what you know? So in this webinar, we're going to take a two-step approach. First up, we're going to look at how to create career-defining moments, the type of moments that put you and your brand and value on the map, driving the types of results that have people around you sit up, pay attention, and take note of who you are and what you bring to the table. And then, of course, we're going to talk about ways to make those achievements visible, how to amplify your accomplishments. And by the way, if you're following along in the book, you'll find so much more on these two topics in chapters 6 and 7 in my book, Women of Influence. All right, so that's what's ahead in the webinar today. And, you know, so I want you to think about what attracted you to this program? What had you take time out of your busy day? What had you shut the door, put the kids and the pets in the other room so you had this time to focus? Open up the questions tab and send me a note and let me know what are you hoping to learn and accomplish in the rest of our time together today. So what would you like to get out of this webinar? So look, let's take a dive into the first step, which is to create those go big or go home career defining moments that put you and your strengths and your value firmly on the map, creating the kind of results that cannot be ignored. So the key here is don't become indispensable for doing the work that downplays your potential, because look, being indispensable in your current role won't move your career forward. So we're talking about making your brand and your value and your accomplishments clearly visible. And I have two rules of thumb that I want you to remember. And the first, I think you're going to like, all right? So when it comes to making your brand and your value and your accomplishments visible, step one is this, here it comes. It's to work less. All right, now, let's be clear. I do not quit the webinar right now. And next time you check in with your manager or your colleagues and they happen to ask, what did you learn on the Emerging Leaders webinar? Please don't tell them, well, Joe Miller told me I should work less. Oh, and it's 2 p.m. I'm quitting for the day. No, that's not what I mean here. Here's what I mean. The workplace is full of good, honest, hardworking men and women who are sitting at their desk, in the old days, sitting in their cube, today, sitting in your home with your head down, working hard, delivering incredible results to your organization, but wondering, okay, when is someone going to stop by and reward me and recognize me? When is my value going to get noticed? And I guess, you know, the sad fact of it is that they might be waiting for a long time, because if you are a hard worker and you develop a reputation for hard work, what do you think is the thing that you attract more of? And if you said more work or even more hard work, you might actually be correct, because look, we tend to spend a lot of our time with our head down delivering great work and not necessarily taking time to step away and do the things that make all that great work visible, right? So I grew up in Australia, as I know many of you know, and my mum has a saying that is absolutely perfect for these situations. So when you have your head down and you're working hard, we might say you have your nose to the grindstone, right? So picture yourself with your nose to the grindstone. So my mum would say that you have your head down and your tail up. All right, so think about that for a second. When you're working hard and you have your head down and your tail up, which part of you is most visible? Possibly not your best asset, am I right? So whatever you do, don't spend 100% of your time with your nose to the grindstone, with your head down and your tail up. Step away from getting your work done from time to time to go and do the things that make your brand and your accomplishments and your value visible. So take a little piece of time out of every day or every week to go promote the value of your accomplishments. And I do say work less, but there's a follow-up to that, and it's to work hard on the right initiatives. So work hard, but on the right initiatives. Okay, so what do you suppose those might be? In fact, let me do this. I'm just going to encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to go ahead and open up the questions tab and send a note. Let me know when I say work hard on the right initiatives, what do you think those are? Which types of projects or roles or opportunities or assignments are the ones that you should give your full focus on? And look, Tracy was first off the bat here. Tracy said high impact projects. Maria has said the ones that add the most value to the organization. These are awesome, by the way. And Holly Heidi has followed up to say the CEO's goals for the year. Jana gave a very specific example and said growing sales, where Kerry has said the ones that show your value and show your value to the organization. Tiffany has also built on that by saying the ones that gain that confer an efficient advantage to your project or your company. And Catherine has said the projects that allow you to show show results that people are interested in and help you grow. Stephanie said work smarter, not harder. Look, these are fantastic. Thanks, everyone. You know, so it's the things that put you and your brand on the map by driving the types of results that are really valued by your organization. So think about, you know, what is on your leaders' goal list for the year? What are their pain points? What are the things that are difficult that no one wants to tackle, as Margaret has said, but will really make you shine? So think about what it would look like for you to work less on the little things, the busy work, the tactical stuff, and instead work hard on the right initiatives, the ones that really put you and your leadership brand and your value firmly on the map. Thanks, everyone. Great answers there from all of you. All right, so don't be caught with your head down and your tail up. Work less and work hard on the right initiatives, the ones that do showcase your value. So I'm talking here about career-defining moments. In the book, I share 12 career-limiting missteps that even the most seasoned leaders can make. And misstep number 7 is about accepting low visibility assignments. And for every misstep, I share a leaderly move that you can make instead. So instead of accepting low visibility assignments, the leaderly move to make in its place is to create career-defining moments. Career-defining moments. And so this is one that I want you to tattoo on your brains, because what is a career-defining moment? Well, it's one where you reinforce the leadership brand that you wish to be known for, and at the same time, demonstrate your ability to deliver valuable results to your organization, right? That's a career defining moment. It's any opportunity you have to do these two things at the same time. So you want to look for the types of roles and projects and assignments and opportunities that align with that brand that you want to showcase and become known for, at the same time as clearly showing that you deliver highly valued and sought after results to your organization. Okay, so I want you to start to think about what examples are there from your own recent career history. Have you had experienced a career defining moment? Because if you can be really strategic and focused on this, you'll go from strength to strength and have an incredible career. If at every time you get a chance to choose what you work on, you tilt towards the career defining opportunity, doing work that showcases your brand and aligns with it, gets you that experience that you want to be known for, at the same time as delivering those bottom line, strategic, valued, and visible results to your organization. So as you're thinking through that, I really want you to open up the questions tab again. And if you have a recent example of a career defining moment, go in and just as briefly as possible, so no more than one sentence, type a description of what that was. What did you work on that fit the criteria for a career defining opportunity? And Ashley has asked a really important question. I'm going to come back to this in a moment, but she said, how does one not accept assignments? So the first thing I want you to think about is to tattoo these criteria on your brain and raise your hand for, or volunteer for, or even create these career defining moments. And also think about how you might want to take a step back from any assignment that doesn't fit the model of being a career defining one for you. So again, everyone, I'm really waiting to hear some examples, because that's what's going to really bring this to life. And Judy, thank you, Judy. So Judy has written about, oh wow, here they come too quickly for me to read. Judy said being team lead on a transition between one organization to the mothership, the mother organization. So congratulations, Judy. What an awesome project to be the lead for. Tiffany has said assisting to find a solution for a software program that wasn't communicating properly between the customer service reps and the legal department. Rachel has said that she was given the opportunity to lead her office for a couple months while her supervisor was gone on leave. And Chantel said that she helped to lead an internal knowledge initiative which increased efficiency and reduced workload across the board for her team. So look, a fist bump with sparkles to everyone whose example I just read and everyone else who's sending these in. These are phenomenal. So if you've not got one in mind, I want you to think about what you could volunteer for or propose or work on next. Because when it comes to making your brand and your value visible, these career-defining moments are what truly raises your profile and puts you on the map. Gosh, there are so many great examples. I'll share 3 more. So Swati said transitioning into the team lead role for her group. Greg said taking the lead on responding to a major high-level infraction. And then Melanie worked on tribal relations and later became the state tribal liaison. Melanie, here's a special double fist bump with sparkles for you. So thanks everyone for sharing those awesome examples of your career defining moments. And so look, again, if you want to have a thriving and sustainable and very successful year, career, let alone year, look for creating a career that is a series of these career defining moments after career defining moments that scale up at those points when you want to up level your personal brand. All right, I'm smiling here, just thinking about all the great examples from everyone. But look, here's a watch out. So there was some recent research that found that women and minorities do possibly the opposite, more of the opposite of these career defining opportunities, in that we tend to attract more of the office housework, right? What are some examples of office housework? Feel free to open up the questions tab and type in an example of what we mean by office housework. Let me just say, it could be the actual office housework. You know, back in the day when we went into office buildings, it could be the person who was literally cleaning out the break room and changing the coffee filters and making sure that there was enough paper in the copier. It could also look like being the one to organize team events and collect RSVPs for meetings. But here's the kicker. No one moved their career forward by being an absolute ninja at changing the coffee filters or tracking the RSVPs. And so I want you to be aware that women and minorities tend to attract more of this low-level busy work. And I want you to take a stand for it being shared equitably within the team, especially if you have the scope of influence to really make that happen. But thanks everyone for sending in your examples. We have creating memos and doing the data entry and setting up meetings, said Candida. Humani said setting up the team lunch. Oh, Stacy said picking up the mail for the staff. Rebecca said routine system maintenance. Robin shared an example of taking meeting notes and doing the administrative tasks. Melina said answering the phones. And I think Swati summed it up beautifully. She said doing the thing that no one wants to take on, right? So again, you want to create more of those career defining moments and step away from doing the busy work, the office housework, or even better, be someone who's reminding people in the team to share it equitably. Okay, So one of my favorite past webinar speakers and one of the favorite leaders interviewed for my book is Pam Stewart, who is Senior Vice President of National Retail Sales at Coca-Cola. And she said, to high achievers who are often people pleasers, the idea of saying no can be painful, but the inability to set boundaries around our time erodes the opportunity to attack our boldest dreams. Right? So next time you're tempted to volunteer for the office housework or the assignment that doesn't align with your brand and showcase it and demonstrate results, instead of raising that hand, try sitting on that hand, or even better, think about for whom there is in the team around you for whom this task or opportunity represents a career defining moment for them, because there's probably someone around you for whom that particular task that's not a great one for you is a next step up in them building their brand and showcasing results. So instead of raising your hand or sitting on your hand, you could do this, right? In fact, why don't you follow along? Fold your arms, point your fingers, and go ahead and do that. Point to the people alongside of you for whom this could form a career-defining moment, right? And someone asked earlier, how do you say no? Because I think we often struggle with how to diplomatically say no without it being a political misstep or a career-ending faux pas. And so here's a sentence I want you to tattoo on your brain. Pulling from my notes here. It's to, oh gosh, and it's gone from my mind and it's not in my notes. I'll come back to that in a moment. Oh wait, here we go. It's thanks for thinking of me, but I can actually do more. And then state the thing that you'd like to do more of instead. Did you get that? So you can say, thanks for thinking of me, but I can actually do more. And then state and educate others about the types of career defining moments you'd like to take on more of. And this goes true for when someone praises you, say thank you, and I can actually do more. And so seize those moments to educate others about who you are, what your strengths are, and what you bring to the table. All right, so we've talked about creating more of those career defining moments. Now let's turn to, I think, what you've all come here for, how not to be the best kept secret in the organization and how to amplify those accomplishments, how to put you and your brand and your accomplishments firmly on the map. Okay, so as I was reviewing the questions that came in before the webinar, it occurred to me that I'm not the only person that finds this challenging. In fact, so many of the questions that you submitted before this program were some type of version of how can I promote my accomplishments without coming across as, and I'll fill in the blank with all of the words that you used, without coming across as aggressive, without coming across as overbearing, overconfident, conceited, self-centered, cocky, egotistical, insincere, undiplomatic, gloating, self-aggrandizing, self-inflating. Here's my favorite, braggadocious. 11 of you said, how can I promote my accomplishments without coming across as arrogant? But the number one most used term was bragging. 15 of you asked the question, how can I promote my accomplishments without coming across as bragging? And I think, you know, the sad fact of it is, for whatever reason, this is really challenging. I think most of us have at some point in our career known someone who, well, to put it kindly, had a tendency to overdo it, who was always calling attention to themselves, talking up, you know, themselves, their accomplishments, and it just came across as a bit much. And so we stepped back maybe a little too far in the other direction and decided, I'm never going to promote my accomplishments at all, even perhaps when appropriate and necessary. So if you're not promoting your accomplishments, even when appropriate, even when necessary, think about what you might do to turn that around. But look, there's also something else going on here. And it's that there are some particular dynamics that affect us as women and minorities. So when it comes to women and self-promotion, there's good news and there's bad news. Which do you want first? All right, I hope you said bad news, because that's that's the next slide in my deck. So here it is. It's the soul-crushing truth, the soul-crushing, honest to goodness truth about women and self-promotion is that, you know, while assertive self-advocacy can line up very well with the long-standing stereotype of the ambitious man, the ambitious male go-getter, some studies have shown that when women demonstrate the same behaviors, they elicit negative reactions because they're not following what are considered to be the stereotypical feminine traits of being, you know, humble, nurturing, collaborative, you know, the communal mindset. And so as a result of this disapproval, some women in some organizational cultures are missing out on leadership opportunities, because we can find ourselves in this exasperating double bind where, on the one hand, you know, we can self-advocate and be sidelined for lacking the type of stereotypical social skills that women are expected to exhibit. You know, those you know, those traditionally feminine traits. On the other hand, if we fail to self-advocate and self-promote, we can become considered as less competent, have our competence questioned, and miss out on those leadership opportunities. And so I think what's happened over the years, over time, is we've learned to walk this very, very narrow path between these two penalties that we pay: self-promote and, you know, be considered to be too aggressive, too assertive, too boastful, fail to self-promote, and we become overlooked. And so, look, not surprisingly, as women, when we fear this backlash, we become less vocal in claiming credit for our work. So if that's been you, if you've been wary of spotlighting your strengths and your accomplishments and your value, know that this gender bias penalty might be the culprit. And I want you to do a kind of a scan of the organizational culture around you and evaluate whether this particular backlash is your reality. And if you suspect the problem isn't you, it's the culture, in the rest of our time together, I'm going to share a couple things you can do as workarounds or strategies to raise your visibility without the backlash, or even be what I call a game changer. As I was researching for my book and scratching my head about this double bind, this narrow tightrope that we need to walk, I did look hard for what could be some game-changing tactics to use instead, and I found one study that I just love, that's one of my favorite pieces of data on this, and it's that when influential women lead by example, assertively calling attention to their high performance, it becomes expected, it becomes rewarded, and it becomes the norm. Right? So think about whether you might be one of those women who has accrued some influence in your organization, and are you using it to make a difference, to be a bias buster, and to shift your organization's norms and culture around how we expect women to speak up and self-advocate, because perhaps you're leaving the opportunity on the table to model calling attention to your performance, and in doing so, start to really be a shapeshifter in your organization's culture. So notice if you've got the influence accrued in order to be a game changer, and if so, I really want you to think about how you can model calling attention to your high performance and self-advocating for yourself and also others in order to change the game. If you're not quite there yet, I want you to reframe your thinking away from self-promotion, because this isn't really all about self-promotion, is it? Right? Instead of thinking about this as self-promotion, I want you to think about ways to take that bias, that stereotype of women, as selfless, communal operators, and weaponize it, turn it to your advantage to subtly start to undermine and shift the norms towards ones where women's achievements are recognized. So move from thinking about self-promotion to stealth-promotion. And before I share my favorite top 8 tips for stealth-promotion, promoting accomplishments and subtly, stealthily shifting the culture, I'm going to open up a new poll here. All right, that one should be activated right about now. I want to hear from you with your #1 tip for promoting accomplishments in ways that have been effective for you, that feel authentic to who you are, but also are rewarded and recognized within the team culture that you're a part of. So go ahead and open up pollev.com/leaderly, take the next poll in as few words as possible, in probably 3 to 4 words maximum. Share your examples for stealth promotion, promoting accomplishments while also stealthily changing the culture and what we expect of women in terms of self-advocacy. Well, I can see those coming in. I can't wait to share those with you. But here are my top 8. The first, and this one is so easy, it's to give progress updates, right? So next time you meet with your manager, or next time you're tapped for one of those high profile career defining opportunities, ask, is it okay if I keep you updated, and how frequently? That way you have permission to give the milestones, the progress updates, so you're not just waiting to showcase the grand end result, that big ta-da moment, but rather you're giving those little incremental updates and sharing the incremental accomplishments along the way. So giving progress updates is my first. Next, and this I think speaks to a fundamental principle at play here, and it's to become a hub for knowledge. Because time and time again, when I ask people for their favorite, most effective tip on promoting accomplishments, they'll share one that's also educational, right? And so people, one of the most memorable things that people gain from working with you is when they learn from you. So think about what you can bring to the table in terms of being the go-to hub for knowledge in your area of expertise. And what are some of the methods you can use to share that expertise in a very educational way with others? Because you're also showing what you know. For example, I know some of you love to speak in public. If that's you, create a keynote address that showcases achievements, or maybe just put together a set of best practices and go share that presentation with other teams, or invite your leaders to come listen in. Or if you don't at all like to speak, but you love to write, maybe write some blog posts. It'll probably take you about 5 minutes to create a LinkedIn blog. Create a presentation, create a blog post, write an article for your organization's newsletter. Look for ways to be educating others as you show what you know. Building on those, another great way to be a hub for knowledge is to promote a problem, that problem that you were uniquely built to solve. So think about your unique value proposition, your leadership niche, and what are the types of issues or problems or gaps that fit very well within your expertise. And goodness knows our world has a whole new level of dysfunction and issues and problems and gaps right now. So think about a problem that you've solved that tells the story of your brand, and then use the SPA approach to story tell it. So the S stands for situation. So what was the situation that you found yourself in? What was the problem? And don't be afraid to kind of play up the problem, dramatize it, kind of go into the emotion and really get in and dig and dramatize what the issue was that you were faced with. Then A stands for action. So what action did you take? And then finally, what was the result? And so you can promote a problem using this SPA storytelling method in a way that really sticks in people's minds. So tell them about the situation, the problem, the action you took, and then what was the end result. And along the way, don't be afraid to be a bit humble and speak the F word, which we all know is failure. Don't be afraid to talk about your failures. You know, those flopportunities, as I like to call them, especially if you were the one that's able to showcase a learning or share some best practices that you used to recover, to reinvent processes, to resolve that failure or problem or prevent it from occurring again. These are some of the best stories that you can tell to promote the value of what you know. Sarpal Bioreactor with Cisco Women in Tech was one of our previous webinar guest speakers, and she told a story about galvanizing the women in tech community. So, you know, there's that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So don't underestimate the value of bringing together a community of people who care passionately about the same issues that you do. Right? So bring together people who are like-minded, form a community of knowledge sharing, of best practices. That's a great way to show up as a leader and show what you know, but also be someone who's a continual learner and bringing others along too. Go after awards and recognition. Someone's got to win those awards. It might as well be you. So it's the difference between being an outstanding engineer and an award-winning engineer, right? So raise your hand for nominations for those awards and recognition that make people sit up and pay attention. And then don't forget to what I call posse power. You know, it's been proven that when someone else showcases your accomplishment, it's seen as more credible than when you toot your own horn. So team up with your posse, form a group who are calling out each other's achievements. When someone has a great idea, make sure it's attributed to that person. Put each other's names forward for high profile opportunities, and absolutely make sure that their accomplishments are getting recognized in a group setting. So don't underestimate the power of the posse. And then finally, be a hero maker. If you are leading a team, or if you're an influencer within your team, don't just call out your own achievements. Lift everyone up by creating the type of culture where team achievements are recognized as well. If you're an individual contributor, you might recommend having a go-round at the start of meetings to you know, have everyone share an accomplishment or share a strength that they've used in the past week, for example. And that's a great way to create that culture within a team. Absolutely do that if you're in a role where you're leading groups. So those are my favorite stealth promotion tactics that weaponize those biases that we sometimes succumb to, of those more stereotypical feminine traits, and start to turn them to our advantage to shift the culture around women in self-promotion while also putting our own accomplishments on the map. See if one of these resonates for you and if it's something that you'll use to showcase one of your recent achievements. Thanks everyone who's taken the poll. I've got those answers coming and I'll share them with you in just a moment. There's also a worksheet that I've made available to you on the materials page of a list of 33 ways to amplify your accomplishments, and you can get those by sending a text message to 33777 and just writing the word leaderly in your text. So text the word leaderly to 33777 to get those 33 ways to amplify your accomplishments. And here we go. These are looking fantastic, everyone. All right, so what's your #1 tip for promoting accomplishments? Someone said concise and precise update sharing. Another person said sharing what you've done with the team. Having colleagues give a shout out, and hopefully you're teaming up and reciprocating. These are so awesome, everyone. Monthly meetings with your supervisor. Quantify your accomplishments and ask questions that clarify those. I'll share more of these in just a moment. But I also want to talk about one of the #1 things that you can control that tends to hold us back. So imagine that you are thinking about that that career accomplishment that you're most proud of, that proudest achievement, your recent career defining moment, and you're about to join a conference call or a Zoom or even a meeting where you'll have the prime opportunity to speak up and showcase it. All right, here's what I want you to do. Wherever you're joining from right now, go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and stand up. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart, hands on hips, shoulders back, chin up, and I want you to imagine yourself striding confidently toward that opportunity where you know you're going to be able to showcase that accomplishment. You're striding toward that opportunity, ready to join that conference call, that virtual meeting. And in that moment, our big, beautiful brains do a number on us, don't they? Because all of a sudden, instead of thinking about how to share your accomplishment, you're thinking, I don't want to sound too braggy, and I don't want to come across as boastful, and I know how busy everyone is, and I feel guilty taking up their time. Or maybe you're thinking, I'm uncomfortable talking about myself and my accomplishments, or sometimes it's hard to toot your own horn, or I hate the feeling that I'm pitching myself. Have you ever had those conversations into your head? All right, so here's what happens. We say to ourselves, I don't like to sound too braggy and I don't want to come across as boastful. Take those feet and point your toes inwards. Next, you say to yourself, I know how busy everyone is and I feel guilty taking up their time. Drop those hands from your hips. Then you say, I'm uncomfortable talking about myself and my accomplishments, and sometimes it's hard to toot my own horn. Roll your shoulders forward. Then you say to yourself, I hate the feeling I'm pitching myself, and drop that chin down to your chest. Now imagine from that posture that the perfect opportunity opens up to showcase your proudest career achievement, and you say, oh, I wrote a book that sold almost 8,000 copies. It's so hard, isn't it? Notice the number that we do on ourselves. All right, now what I want you to do is to resume that proud posture, feet shoulder width apart, hands on hips, chin up, shoulders back, and let's refute each of these issues. I don't like to sound too braggy and I don't want to come across as boastful. Well, guess what? It's not bragging if it's true. Next, you might say, I know how busy everyone is and I feel guilty taking up their time. Well, you know what? If they know the value of what you bring to the table, you've just made their life a whole lot easier, haven't you? They know when to come to you for what you can provide. Then you say to yourself, well, I'm uncomfortable talking about my accomplishments and sometimes it's hard to toot your own horn. Well, guess what? It gets easier with practice, doesn't it? Final one, I hate the feeling that I'm pitching myself. Well, I just have two words for you. Pitch, please. All right. So now from that proud posture, I want you to consider your proudest recent career defining moment and now speak it from that powerful place. Do you feel the difference? All right. So I have one final rule of thumb here for you, and it starts with A, and A, right? It's an awfully awkward acronym, I know. So what does it stand for? Here it is. It's to amplify the accomplishments that align with your aspirations. Amplify the accomplishments that align with your aspirations, right? Next time you get a chance to showcase what you're working on, don't talk about all of the little things, but think strategically about that career defining moment that is going to put you and your leadership brand on the map and amplify that accomplishment. Be strategic in what you share. All right, so far in this webinar, we've talked about creating those career defining moments and amplifying your accomplishments. And I do have just a couple quick questions that have come in from our group. While I answer those, I'm going to go back to the poll so that you can see some of the answers that are coming in, because Elizabeth asked a great question. Elizabeth asked, what's a reasonable percentage of time to spend on self-advocacy? I love that. And hopefully what you're taking away from this session is the answer is greater than 0. So what's a reasonable percentage of time to spend on self-advocacy? Obviously not 100%. You still want to be performing your role and doing it well, but it's definitely got to be greater than 0, right? I think we can all agree. So next question comes in from Tracy. Tracy, thanks for this one. Tracy said, what if your unique talents are a combination of the talents that other people on the team have? And I would say, Tracy, and for others, the thing I want you to think about is that promoting your talents can be less memorable than promoting the problems you solved, or the gaps you've filled, or the results that you're driving. So look for those important problems or gaps that are an ideal match for your talents and promote the result, because our business landscape has changed very dramatically, and there are so many new and unheard of opportunities to do that. Now really is your moment to step up and lead. And then final quick one here from Teresa. Teresa asks, how do you gain recognition for all of your accomplishments? And I would say, Teresa, don't. Be selective in going after recognition for the accomplishments that align with your brand and that tell the story of where you want to go next in your career. So thanks everyone for sending in those terrific questions. I have a couple recommended resources for you. The first is that checklist of 33 ways to amplify your accomplishments. You can get that again by sending that text message to the number 33777 with the word Leaderly. And then, oh, look, it's my book, Woman of Influence, 9 Steps to Build Your Brand, Establish Your Legacy, and Thrive. And truly, if you want to do a much, much deeper dive into these themes of career-defining moments and amplifying your accomplishments, jump straight to chapters 6 and 7 in the book. So with that, thanks for honoring us with your time. I know that this has been a huge time of adjustment, that you're dealing with hurdles and challenges that were probably unimaginable just 2 short months ago, the last time we met. But Angie and I at Be Leaderly are truly honored to have the gift of this time with you, and love that so many of you shared your examples of career achievements, as well as different ways that you're promoting your accomplishments. So join us next time, June 30th, for Mobilizing Your Support Network. We'll have a panel with us, and we're going to talk about ways to build trusting workplace relationships in this new crazy global world, virtual world that we find ourselves in. So final closing thought from me. Look, the world needs your leadership now, more so than probably any other time in our collective lifetimes. But when you keep your head down, you silence your voice and you submerge your influence. So don't do that. Own your leadership strengths, claim your leadership niche, up level your personal brand into a leadership brand, create more career defining moments, and amplify accomplishments, not just your own, but be someone who is role modeling, amplifying accomplishments to shift the culture around you. And in doing so, become that powerhouse leader that you were meant to be. All right, everyone, our time is at a close. But look, as I said earlier, it's been a terrific honor and a pleasure to spend this hour with you. I'll stay here for a bit longer answering your questions. Stay in touch and be safe, be well, and take care of those around you as well. And here's a special fist bump from myself and Angie. If you have joined in a group with colleagues, or if you're going to jump on a Zoom or a Teams meeting or a Hangout, here are your discussion questions to make the most of what we've just covered. Number 1, revisit your leadership brand from the last session and see what you can do to tweak it and make it even more relevant in our new pandemic reality. Next up, what are some of the internal and external factors that hold you back from amplifying your accomplishments. Identify a recent career-defining moment, and if none come to mind, think about one that you could create or suggest or volunteer for, and then pick at least one thing to try from my examples or from all the awesome ones shared by our group. Pick at least one thing to try to amplify that accomplishment. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. We'll see you back here again in 2 months. Do stay well, be safe, and look, here's one more fist bump and sparkles to you from me and Angie. Bye.